Twitter is a garbage website.
Rhythm. Rev.
You don't get it, do you? Twitter has been the topic of much discussion as of late, and none of it has been positive. Recently, Twitter has had a tendency to get itself talked about in a negative light, and I can't really say it's undeserved. Twitter, in its entirety, from the people who have created it and run it, all the way down to the people who use it, are actively working to make the site worse and worse year by year. And I'm here to create a comprehensive list of every single one of my complaints and issues with the site and compile it in one big video. Or at least the ones that make sense to people that aren't me, of course. And as a longtime user of 5 years myself, who else is more qualified? I'm like a less important Martin Luther, or a disenfranchised user complaining about those around me who have had more success on the site. Whatever one you decide. So, let's just jump in with the first big issue. For the first issue, what better start than with the posting experience itself? Twitter is a social media site where users can post content on an account. Tweets can consist of 280 characters and can either include 4 images or GIFs, 1 short video, or a poll. Pretty simple stuff really, but Twitter's design has some major flaws. For one, the website itself crops images using an algorithm that is incredibly unpredictable and has rather unfortunate results. Just about every user hates this, as it's not something you can necessarily predict or control. At least with something like Instagram, you can choose how to crop the image. Here, it's left up to the mercy of whatever the website decides after you upload it. As for the character limit, while it's a defining trait of Twitter, it's a big part in creating the volatile nature of the community. You only have 280 characters to complete a full thought in, and while this works for small things like telling your followers what you ate for breakfast, when it comes to orchestrating full-scale arguments and also observing what the opposing side does correctly, it's basically impossible. Instead, conversations are like a game of tennis, just back and forth, all the while creating miscommunication and not being productive at all. It just makes all parties involved more and more frustrated. Another huge issue is with the design of the feed of the website. How it's set up by default is that the website will show you quote-unquote top tweets based on an algorithm, meaning that tweets from smaller accounts are basically invisible. Now you can change it so that your feed shows tweets in chronological order, you know, how a social media site is supposed to have a feed, but it's always reset without fail after a couple months, without even notifying the user. That isn't even getting into all the dumb stuff that clogs these feeds. For one, you will be shown tweets that accounts that you follow have either liked or are following said user. Kinda negating the point of having a retweet function, huh? This is like when your teacher takes the note you're passing to a friend and reads it aloud to the class. Like, it's annoying and needless for Twitter to put its users on blast like this. Just all around, not a fan of this feature. In fact, I don't think anyone really is. Speaking of features I don't like, retweets. Well, not really, but moreover, when you comment on something someone you follow retweets, Twitter has it set to default that both the OP and the person who retweeted the tweet get notified of what you're saying, and you have to go out of your way and change this, something that many people either forget to do or just don't fucking know how to. Not only that, but I've had instances where I untag people in replies only for Twitter to just ignore that and tag them anyways, although I do think this glitch has been patched out by now. Still, the fact that this is a feature is pointless. It helps no one. Verification. Telling people that you are, in fact, who you say you are. It's a simple idea that many social media platforms have. Here on YouTube, a little gray check mark next to your name is applied, presumably when you get enough clout to warrant having one. But either way, seems quite easy to accomplish. But with Twitter, it's an absolute shit show. The purpose of having a verification badge is meant to distinguish an official account from an impersonator and prove that you are, in fact, the real deal. But instead, Twitter has subjectively given these badges to those who they feel deserve it that week. Basically, if you aren't a brand, company, celebrity, or journalist, it's basically fucking impossible to get the verification badge. Most of your favorite YouTubers aren't verified, even if they have millions of subscribers on YouTube and followers on Twitter. As it turns out though, Twitter shows heavy favoritism to the brands and publications that spend the most in advertising on the website. Employment did a big video kind of detailing the inner machinations of how this Twitter verification system works, and it really shows the corrupt side of Twitter as a platform. This kind of bourgeoisie versus proletariat relationship that exists on the site and permeates throughout. Don't worry though, because while you or your favorite independent content creators aren't verified, some no-name journalist with 1,000 followers who works for BuzzFeed or Kotaku is, just for having the word journalist in their bio. But I'll touch on journalists later. Another issue is the trending tab of the Twitter website. For those not aware, Twitter has a little window titled What's Happening that follows users through most of the site to tell them what a lot of people are talking about. It's a useful little feature that helps people know why a certain word or phrase is trending, and I think Twitter users know where I'm going with this. I am so fucking sick of seeing Minecraft YouTubers trend every single fucking day on Twitter, and I mean every day, because these stands will not, freak out because these stands will freak out if Corpse Husband breathes weirdly, and it's not even a fucking joke! Now, if this was a mere annoyance, I could excuse it, right? I realize I can't control what large swaths of people online discuss on a website and whatnot, but larger issues come into play when actually important world news events are drowned out by these stan trends. For instance, it was believed that a black trans woman by the name of Psy was missing and could have been in grave danger. To spread awareness, the hashtag #FindPsy went into orbit and was close to reaching the top 5, but was drowned out by SMP fans and VTuber fans. Not only that, but Twitter actually gave these trends their own descriptions that would appear on the site, bumping them up in terms of the actual trends, and not actually highlighting this very severe issue. And I can't hate SMP or VTuber fans for things like this. I mean, I do, but not because they clog the trending tab with nonsensical garbage, but instead it's Twitter's malformed sense of priority. Rather than pushing up what is more important and pressing, they decide to keep trending topics about entertainment propped up. Now, of course, it turns out FindPsy was actually a hoax, but what if it wasn't? We only learned that the situation was fake the day afterwards, and it's not like other similar instances haven't already happened in the past. And that's not to say that other very real events are also being drowned out by the trending tab either, like the shit that's going on in Myanmar. It's just frustrating that Twitter's trending tab actively obstructs what really matters in the world, do you get it? I hate it when some Twitter user will screenshot a YouTube video, like the impression of one, and make a snarky tweet with some witty joke. Like, fuck you, man. You didn't even watch the video, clearly, seeing as there's no red timeline at the bottom of the thumbnail, and you're already forming an opinion on it. I've seen this a few times on Twitter, not in response to any of my videos, but for ones from others, and it just really shows how assholish the people on this hell site can really be, even at the first impression of a video, and for really no good reason. Sometimes Twitter does this to PNGs. I don't know why, though. You know what I hate? Journalists. At least those that work for big publications, especially with the role they play on Twitter. As I mentioned before, they get dibs on getting that much sought after blue check mark. But not only that, but a lot of these journalists assume the moral high ground just because they have this badge of honor that they really don't deserve. A lot of them kind of talk down to other users and act like the arbiter of morality. This exchange between the YouTuber Boundary Break and this other woman perfectly encapsulates this kind of behavior. In response to an innocent joke made by Shezes, is that his real name? This woman was unnecessarily cruel to him and falsely stated that the original article was a joke when it wasn't, and there's only evidence pointing to it being completely serious. Or how about that time Kotaku tried saying that Nintendo added an ableist slur to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate when they added Wake Up, Get Out There from Persona 5 to the game, where the singer, Lyn, says some undecipherable phrase that was twisted into sounding like the word retarded.
Let's go. Let's play retarded. I say.
A lot of times when you challenge someone on the statements they make on Twitter, they just yell at you for even questioning their thought process and will block you immediately. I've had this happen to me a number of times, and it's really just frustrating. Rather than having a fruitful conversation with deep topics with each other, people typically just go for the block button, which only serves to keep that user inside their own echo chamber. It's stuff like this that makes me detest the block function of social media sites. But it's not like we can just get rid of it. It serves a very useful function in curbing harassment. It's just frustrating when people abuse it to shut out criticism. Twitter has chiefly become the battlegrounds for allegations, rumors, hoaxes, and other sorts. Everything from completely baseless to very much real. The issue comes in how these allegations are made and the repercussions they have towards the creator or creators involved, while the accuser suffers little to no repercussions of their own. You have to understand that an entire person's life is at stake when an allegation is made, especially serious ones like criminal activity, so it's vital that these allegations are not only factual, but handled correctly, something that is almost never happened. Twitter has been the origin for many a false allegation. For starters, we all know the false allegations made against Pro Jared, where screenshots were cropped just enough to push a false narrative onto the masses. YouTuber and Spoonie witness, Joe Vargas, better known as Angry Joe, was falsely accused on Twitter of sexual misconduct by a woman who used anecdotal evidence to make her claim, and even then, it wasn't even entirely truthful either. Unsurprisingly, when Joe did the right thing and suggested the possibility of legal action against these false claims, the woman went on to act as if the allegations were never made in the first place. And again, the YouTuber Slazzo similarly faced allegations made on Twitter by his own ex-girlfriend. What people, Twitter users especially, don't understand is that you can't undo allegations. Even after proving them false, its impact still lingers on like a fart in an elevator. Not only that, but these allegations track and could bar these individuals from seeking employment in other fields. But on Twitter, it's just easier to shoot first and dump content creators like Last Night's Trash than to contact them and to get their perspective on allegations at hand. I know some of you probably went into this video expecting me to talk about stupid, frivolous shit like K-pop stans or putting pronouns in your bio, but I don't care about that. It's stupid to get worked up over such relatively inane shit when we've got these fatal flaws facing us, on both a community and management level. The worst part is that there really isn't another app or website that can replicate the style, sheer volume, and quality of content that Twitter houses. Most of my favorite YouTubers either mainly use Twitter or are exclusively on Twitter. Most of the artists I like post on Twitter actively. I have the most mutuals on Twitter, and no other website has even a remotely similar design to Twitter. No other website lets you post small text-based posts to a feed that people can interact with. People propose this idea that we should move to Instagram or something, but that website doesn't let you make text posts or let your posts spread across the website. Not to mention that it also has its own host of issues. At the end of the day, while Twitter is so frustrating, there's sadly no good alternative. For as much as sites like Reddit and Instagram like to shit on Twitter, half of the big posts on these sites were directly ripped from Twitter. And with all that said, follow my Twitter link in the description.